Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Michaels Community Classroom. We're just going to take a few minutes to get everyone into the class. Feel free to tell us where you're tuning in from in the chat. We're really happy that you could join us today on this drawing class. Yeah, we're just going to take a few minutes and then we'll get started. And as always, you can find, if you wanna take another class, you can find more classes at michaels.com/online classes. We have classes just about every day of the week at a bunch of different times. So just go on there and see what classes you like. They're all free. And then we also have kids clubs. We have those too at michaels.com/kids clubs if you are a kid or you have a kid and you want to take those classes. But yeah, we hope that you enjoy today. We still have quite a few people coming in. Feel free to tell us if you're just now joining, tell us where you are from the chat. We have Savannah, Georgia. We have Cincinnati, North Carolina. Hey, we got Texas, represent. California, San Diego.
My hometown.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
We have New York, Canada, Maryland. We got people from all over the place joining us today.
A lot of people joining us. Exciting.
Yeah. Still have a few people coming in. We're just going to give them a couple more minutes. Got people from New Hampshire. So we're recording this class. It will be available Wednesday at michaels.com/classes. So if you miss anything or you have to leave early, you can always go and rewatch the class there. Looks like we've got Connecticut, we've got Massachusetts. All right, so thank you all for joining. We are having a introductory drawing class, and Nick, who is our wonderful trend and design manager here at Michaels, is going to be teaching us how to draw a lovely hummingbird. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to him to get us all started.
Hi, everybody. As Stacy said, my name is Nick. I am one of the trend and design managers at Michaels. The categories that I cover are kids crafts and fine arts. They're both a couple of our biggest areas within the company. I enjoy working with all the product and all the people that I get to interact with every day. They say you don't work a day in your life if you love what you do. I love what I do, so I don't ever feel like I'm working. Before we begin, there's somebody special that I need to recognize. That's my mom. Today is her birthday, so if everybody could wish my mom, Marilu, a happy birthday in the chat, I know she would appreciate it. I think she's 49 again. So with that, where I really want to start with is when it comes to drawing and when it comes to sketching, there is no right or wrong way to do it. It's whatever that you are interested in drawing, however you really want to do it, whatever is fun for you, that's what you should be doing. There are no real rules. Now there's techniques and there's tips. And I'll share some of the beginning tips and techniques in this class today. So like I said, draw whatever you want to draw, whatever it is that you're interested in, flowers, landscapes, people, portraits, automobiles, buildings, whatever it is. Or in my case, I love dinosaurs. I mean, behind me, I have some of my figure drawing work that I've done. But personally, I've always been obsessed with dinosaurs since I was a kid, and I never grew out of it. So draw what you want to draw, and keep drawing it. Draw, draw, draw. If you want to get better at drawing, of course, practice makes perfect. But honestly, it's just working at it, constantly and learning. You learn the foundational stuff first, and then you keep growing. So, and another thing too, as beginners, one of the things I love to tell my students is, don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. You shouldn't be worried at this stage about proportion, if the head is too big or the eyes are in the wrong spot. At this stage, what we do is we learn how to draw what we see, meaning values. So what I mean by that is shadows, lights and darks. So I'm going to kind of give you a quick rundown too, also of how to perceive light and what you're looking at in the different objects. And I'll go through form shadow sequence as well, which will basically describe how shadows work. So first things first, let's talk about the materials.
And just real quick, sorry to interrupt. Everyone, you're on mute, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We had a lot of birthday shout outs, by the way, just to let you know. And
awesome.
Go ahead.
Thanks, America. I knew you guys had come through. And happy birthday, Mom, again. Continuing on, materials. First things first is the materials. And in the sign up that was on the michaels.com online classroom website had the materials list. And the materials that I handpicked for you were the pencil set, that 18-piece pencil set. That is a beginner's pencil set. And it's a really good set. It's an Artist Loft brand set. Comes with a selection of pencils in different weights. I'll go through all those different weights with you. A couple of different erasers, a blending stick or 2 blending sticks, and then a tortillon. And then also a little sharpener. But I also selected a different sharpener for y'all, and I'll get into that in a second as well. But and then also the paper pad. And this pad here is a level 2 paper pad, as called out on the list and on the cover of the pad here. I'll go through the paper as well. But first things first, like I said, pencils. So the pencils that we have in that set, you'll probably notice, and if you have never seen or taken a look at whatever pencil you're working with, not all pencils are the same. They come in different lead weights, and that refers to the hardness or the softness of the lead when we talk about lead weights. Now, a lot of them have like a number on the lead. I don't know if you'll be able to see this through the phone. Might be a little blurry, but there's a little number right here. Let me go back. So you might not focus on it, but anyways, there's different numbers on these pencils. This particular one that I'm holding is a 4H, and the H stands for the hardness of the lead. So this is a hard lead pencil. And in that set that you got, you had 4 pencils that had H in their numbering. You had a 4H, a 2H, an H, and an HB. So the hardness of the pencil goes up with the number. The higher the number, the harder the pencil. Now, what that means is that it affects your line quality. So the darkness of your line. So the HB pencil will draw a darker line than the H pencil, and the H will draw a darker line than the 2H, and so on and so forth. So these are your hard pencils. These H pencils you really want to use primarily for your beginning drawing. Now, if you ask me what my favorite lead weight is for a pencil, it's right here. It's the HB, and it's because it's a good balance between the hardness and the softness. Let's talk about those soft pencils for a second. So you got a grouping of soft pencils. And again, you have the pencils and the different numbers that are associated with them. And so you have a B, a 2B, a 4B, a 6B, and an 8B. So again, the higher the number, the darker the quality of the lead. I'm sorry. of the lead. So a 6B pencil or an 8B pencil is going to provide you with your darkest darks. And as you progressively go down, of course, it gets lighter, but these pencils are like with the softer lead, they can be a little bit more delicate. And when we get into sharpening, I'll show you a good way to sharpen, just because with some of these pencils, the leads can crack. And it's just in general with most lead pencils. Some artists will use woodless pencils. I like doing woodless pencils sometimes depending on what I'm drawing. I just have something here I'll show you. It's a mechanical pencil. And this is one that I like to use too, but we'll save this for another day. Okay, so let's move some of these off to the side. And let's move into the sharpeners that I got for you.
Hey, Nick, real quick.
Sure.
If people don't have a certain number of pencil, can they use, like, if they use a lighter pencil, can they just use how do they get that darker tone? Can they still just use a single pencil or different types of pencils?
Sure, you can, like, again, if you're using a number 2 pencil, I think I saw one in the chat where somebody had asked if the number 2 pencil is an HB. It's very close. A number 2 pencil is fine. And if you don't have all these variety of pencils, the ones that I would recommend that you get would be a 2B, an HB, and a 2H. If those are the only 3 pencils that you are using. And then, because the reason why you want those different hardness of leads is because you want variety of your pencil strokes. We'll get into that, but if you're only using one pencil, and the HB is perfect for it. I use that a lot. You would be able to get dark strokes and dark lines with an HB pencil, but they're never going to be as dark as you would with a higher B pencil. Does that help answer? I hope so. All right, so moving on to the sharpeners. So the sharpener that came in with the kit was this little metal standard sharpener. This is a good beginning sharpener, and you'll notice it has 2 different sizes, obviously, because that will fit 2 different size pencils. With the pencils that are included in the set, they're going to go in obviously into the smaller pencil hole. Now I'm not going to sharpen it here on top of this paper pad because I don't want it to get messy, because this doesn't have a little container to catch your pencil sharpening filings like this nice little contraption does. That's why I also selected this one for you. If you didn't pick this up and you don't have something like this and you want to use this pencil, just make sure that you hold it over a trash can while you're sharpening it. And when you do sharpen it, and I'll go over here and I'll switch over to the enclosed pencil sharpener. When you do, you want to push in and slow. You don't want to go too fast, because if you go too fast, you risk breaking the lead. So you just really want to go slow with it and work it until you get a real nice point. I don't know if you all can see that, maybe not because it's too close, but you want to make sure that you get a nice point.
Hey, Nick, real quick, just for everyone, I'm going to switch the chat to host only so that we can help kind of mute a little bit of the noise. I see a lot of spam in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so yeah, with the pencil, that's how you sharpen it, just slowly in there. And you always really, one tip that that you really want to make sure that you follow is you want to make sure that you keep your pencil lead sharp, keep your pencil points sharp, because that way you can get a better line and it's easier to control. Okay. And if there's any questions about sharpening, please feel free to ask in the chat, and I'm sure it'll get disseminated to me.
Yes, we have one question. Can you use an electric pencil sharpener?
Absolutely, that's a great question. I actually do have I have an electrical pencil sharpener handy. Now, not all electric sharpeners are the same. This particular one is a Boston. It's one of the ones that I use. I have two actually, and this one is a top feeding pencil sharpener. It's a little dusty because of all the, because I use it a lot. So there's a lot of lead dust on there. But then there's also the front facing ones too. With the front facing ones, I don't like those as much because when you push into it, they can push back. These top feeding ones are really good because when you push down, this isn't moving anywhere. When it's a front facing one and you push it, they can kind of push back as you are sharpening your pencil. But they'll give you a really good point. And they work way more efficiently. But for those who who are still in the beginning stages, this works perfectly fine for what you're trying to do. One of the other ways that professional artists will also sharpen their pencils is actually they will take an X-Acto knife. I don't recommend that for younger ages, but they will also sharpen their leads with an X-Acto blade to take off a lot of the wood and make a sharper, finer point and longer point with sandpaper. But that's an advanced technique. I will get in, maybe in a future advanced technique class, I will cover that. Great question. Okay, so moving on from that. Paper, that's the second important, obviously, material for drawing. This particular pad that I selected for you all, it's a 9x12 sheet, so it's got good coverage. There's much larger ones. I'm sure for some people, especially the beginning artists and the beginning person who wants to learn how to draw, when you're walking down the aisle at Michael's, when you go into the fine arts section and you see all those pads, I'm sure it can be a little daunting. So you don't really know what to select. But we make it easy with the Artistloft brand by clearly showing you the different levels of for whatever material it is that you're trying to pick up. So this particular drawing pad, it's a 70-pound paper. To put it into context, regular printer paper is 20 pounds. So this is a really good weight paper. And it's got a little bit of a tooth to it. If you did pick up the paper pad, what I want you to do is kind of just rub your hand a little bit on top of it, and you can kind of feel it's got a slight texture to it. It doesn't have a coarse texture, but it has a somewhat of a smooth intermediate texture. So there's different types of papers. For you just beginning out, this is a great start right here. And it's a great pad that comes with a lot of sheets too. Okay, so if there aren't any questions about the paper, and if you are using something that's a little bit lighter than the 70, it's perfectly fine. I see the comment about 50-pound paper from Nadia, and yes, 50-pound paper would be perfectly fine, especially for this. All right, so let's talk really quickly about our erasers that came in the set. You have two different types of erasers that were provided to you. You have a kneaded eraser, which is kind of gummy, and it feels really soft and pliable. And then we also have this regular white eraser, which is firmer and doesn't have that as pliable kneading texture or consistency like your kneaded eraser. Whenever I'm drawing, here's another quick little tip for you, because when these are cold, they're very firm. I like to keep a kneaded eraser. This is a different color because it's a different brand, but I like to keep a kneaded eraser, and I'm right-handed. I like to keep one in my left hand as I'm drawing, and usually I'll have multiple pencils in my hand and the kneaded eraser while I'm drawing, so I can select really quickly the pencils that I'm working with, depending on whichever hand, of course, you favor. But by keeping it in your hand, it keeps it warm and keeps it a little bit more pliable. Because the nice thing about these kneaded erasers too is this is not just an eraser to remove graphite and lead. It's actually a drawing tool. And also it's a cleaning tool. And I'll show you how to use it as a cleaning tool in a second. So if you all have that knead eraser, just take it. And this is great for stress relief too. And just start kind of kneading it in your hand and pulling it apart. And this helps to also, whenever you find that when you're working with your kneaded eraser, and it starts to get a lot of lead in it and it seems like it's getting dirty, do this. And it'll help to clean that up and distribute out the lead that's in there and give you more of a clean surface. Eventually, you do have to, when there's too much lead saturating these, you'll have to get a new one because it just won't work as well as it has in the past. So take your kneaded eraser and just hide it away in your hand so that it warms up and it'll be easier to play with. And again, this is just your standard eraser. This is where if you want to erase larger areas, if you have something, let me just show you guys some different things here real quick. Put some lead down. Let's say you want to remove large areas of your drawing because you want to redo something. This is perfect for that, of course. So this is the eraser that you want to use when you want to remove those larger areas. Now, another tip. All this eraser fodder that has come off here, whatever you do, don't do this. Or don't blow on it. And if anybody can tell me before I let you know, if there is anybody in the chat, and the first one that can see who can give me the correct answer why you don't want to use your hand or you don't want to blow on it, I'll give them a special shout out. I don't have the authority to be able to give away free stuff, unfortunately. Let's see. The first one I see is from, looks like Peyton said that it will smudge. Yes, it will smudge, but there's actually something worse than if it will smudge, because sometimes you might even want to smudge and you might be tempted with your finger to smudge, but there's another reason why. And the reason why is because I didn't see it exactly. Yep, somebody called it, Kiva said hand. Now your hand has oils in it. And what happens is when you use your hand over it, those oils get into the paper. And then what happens is when you have oils in your paper, and I'm doing this on purpose, when you get oils in from your finger into the paper, it makes it harder to erase. Because then stuff really gets saturated into the paper. Your finger kind of pushes it down into the paper, and it also will change the quality of your surface. So it'll even actually make it harder to draw on there because your hands have oil in them. Now, just really quickly, since I have this dirty finger, that's where Mr. Kneaded Eraser can help out with, because it can also clean off some of that stuff. So you can rub your finger on there, play with this. This is also great for stress relief. Sometimes you might find yourself too, while you're on the phone and somebody calls you and you have your kneaded eraser right there, you just do this. But see, it starts to take a little bit of that off. Not completely clean, but it takes it off too. All right, so what do you think is gonna be the best way? And when you blow, oh, sorry, I forgot to say, blowing. The reason why you don't blow, your spit. You don't want to get your spit all over the paper. You don't want to get the saliva on there, because again, that will ruin your drawing too. So there's a couple things that we can do. I saw somebody had said you can tap it off. Yeah, sure, you can tap it off. You can take it, you can pick it up, put it over the garbage, sure. One of the things too that you could use is a brush. Like if you just have a clean, this obviously isn't clean, this is one of my painting brushes, but you can use a brush to kind of gently stroke it off. I have this fancy drafting tool brush that I use. to get it off. And that will help protect your surface and get rid of all of that, all of the shading or the eraser fodder. Okay, so, but a nice soft bristle brush would work too. That won't, but just do it gently. You don't need to, because if you do too hard with the brush too, it'll smear your drawing and you'll lose some beautiful detail. But you could also use this as a drawing tool if you want that smudge effect. Okay. All right, so going back to Mr. Kneaded Eraser here, which is now nicely warm. You could use a kneaded eraser to draw. If you get like a nice chiseled edge on here like that, you can use that to kind of create some lines in your drawing if you wanted to, something like that, to kind of create actually negative strokes. So instead of it being dark, you have it light. You can also use it to press down to get some of those lines in there. But primarily, one of the things that I like to use is if I've gone too dark too fast, and we'll talk about values. Let's make sure I have, okay, this is a 4B. When you're drawing, and if you feel you've gone way too dark, like, oh shoot, my drawing has gone too dark, and that is much darker than I want it to be, that's when he comes in. You can use it to push down firmly, and he lightens it up. So that's primarily what these kneaded erasers are used for. Okay, so let's talk about values. I'm going to switch the page here. So values are light and darks. That's your shading. That's what you build up your drawings with, correct? So you have your different pencils. I am going to start here. Let me see if I can locate it. My eyes are not as good as they used to be, and these numbers are a little too small. I want to find a hard pencil. I'm going to find the 2H. Okay, so I got the 2H here. Now, values are defined as relative light and darks. So that's your blacks and whites. I'm not going to be talking about color, because color, it's during this lesson, I won't touch on color, but color does have its own value. If you ever squint your eyes and look at something with color, you'll be able to kind of see, it will help you to see things that might be lighter and darker if you're looking at something with color. But for this class, we're just going to focus on black and white, of course. An exercise for you to do to help you with these pencils as well, and with value and how dark you can get with each of your pencils, is to do an exercise called color ramping. And this is something that a lot of beginning students I teach to do, is to take each of their pencils. So I'm starting out here with a 2H, and I'll mark that this is, I broke the lead, 2H. And it might be a little hard for you to see, but okay. Looks like you guys can see it really well. And what you do is you just do the scrubbing back and forth, and then as you get closer to the bottom of the page, you lighten up your pressure. So just really quickly, how to hold a pencil. There are no right or wrong ways how to hold a pencil. Some people prefer holding it traditionally like you're writing. As you noticed, I was holding it farther back. And the reason why I hold it farther back is because over time, as I've drawn, this has become a very comfortable posture for me to do, because then I can get these long, broad strokes whenever I need them. But some people also hold pencil like chalk. So I'm holding it like this. And this helps you to vary your lines. And I'll get a little bit more into the line technique in a second, but just wanted to point that out to you all real quick. And you want to make, going back to here where we're doing our color ramp passes with the 2H pencil, you want to go over it at least 2 or 3 times, maybe 4. And again, lighten it down at the bottom, and then really hard pressure at the top. And what you want to create is a smooth transition of value. So you're going from dark to light. So now you can see just how dark your 2H can get, because I use pretty heavy pressure right up in here. And you could try to see if you can get it even darker. But at some point, you won't be able to get it any darker than it is. All right, so let's move on to our HB pencil. Make sure I got that. Okay, so here's our HB pencil. And like I said, I'm not going to do all the pencils, but I recommend that depending on the pencils that you have and which set you got, to do this with each. That way you can see just how dark each pencil can get. All right, so let's try it with the HB pencil. A lot of pressure up at the top. And then as we start getting down to the bottom of the page, we lighten up our pressure. And let's do a couple, at least one more pass. And I know when you do it, just because for the sake of time, and I know everybody wants to see me draw a hummingbird, so I'm not going to try to make this look perfect and even, but I do recommend for you that you do that at home when you're trying out these pencils, to try to make it as even a transition from dark to light. So it's a nice gradation. That will help you to be able to also practice your technique. And then I'm finally going to do the 2B pencil here. So you can see the value. I mean, you guys can see it already. Look at the difference in the value from your 2H to your HB. Now let's see what happens when we do the 2B. Heavy pressure, lightening up, lightening up, lightening up, lightening up, lightening up. Do one more pass. Heavy pressure on the 2B from the top, slowly down. So you can see, how much darker your 2B is as compared to your HB, as compared to your 2H. And I would do these in order. So I would actually start with your 4H that you have in the set, then the 2H, then the H, then the HB, B, 2B, 4B, 6B, and 8B. Okay, there you go. All right, so moving on from the value ramps exercise. So let's talk about your lines and your line weight. Pressure determines your line quality, your line weight. So of course, and I'm going to pull out my trusty HB pencil, if I can find it. Okay, you got my HB. Oh, let's sharpen it first because my point got a little bit dull. Let's see, that's good. So line quality. Now your line quality can vary by the way you hold the pencil. Now going back to how we have the chalk, there was the position where we hold it like we're holding a piece of chalk or a piece of charcoal. And then there's your standard holding of the pencil, like in this position, and then holding it further back. I recommend trying different, varying the way and practicing with how you hold your pencil and the type of line weight that it can create. Now, the first one that I'm going to create is your traditional about 30-degree angle to the paper with the pencil and even pressure. And it creates a uniform line. So that was even pressure, not too hard, not too light. Now, if I vary my pressure between heavy or hard and light, you get a line that creates thicks and thins. So you get this really elegant, beautiful line where you can see where it's thick and then thin and thick and thin. And that can create really good line quality. Now let's vary the way that we hold our pencil. So we're holding our pencil this way. Now I'm using the side of the pencil, not the point. So with the side of the pencil, you create these fatter, softer lines. And these are really good for creating and building out values. And you get this nice, softer, more traditional textured pencil drawing that you might see in some people, some artists' drawings. But sure, I fancy holding the pencil like this occasionally, depending on the type of mood that I want for the drawing. So notice when I was making my marks, how I'm kind of doing these quick, where I have the pressure and then release. That creates a nice line quality too. And you can do that, the same thing too, when you're holding your pencil in a traditional manner. And you can create these nice marks that almost mimic speed. So if you're drawing a comic book, this could also be like your speed lines, and they create like this look of speed. Let's make a quick little ball here. And it's like, that ball is traveling at the speed of light. Okay, let me flip the page real quick. And then let's talk about some shading techniques. And I'm going to hold the pencil in a normal way. Let me sharpen it real quick. And I'm just going to show you a handful of shading techniques. One way that a lot of artists like to shade something, and I'm just going to create a simple circle here. And notice how it's not perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. One way, and this is the traditional way that I like to do my shading, is I do it in a crosshatch fashion. So that when I was just doing that technique where I'm going like this, so I'm kind of just doing this. And one thing you'll notice is when I'm drawing, since I want this to be a sphere, I'm following what I think is the contour of this surface shape. And that way your lines that you draw will help you to kind of define that shape and really push that shape and give it volume, give it contour. These are all fancy words. I could get into them a little bit more, but for the sake of time, I just want to show you this technique that I'm using. And this is crosshatch. So you can see kind of like how the lines are groups of lines that are lying on top of each other. And as you keep building them up this way, it creates darker. It creates a darker area, a darker value. So that's called cross-hatching. And it takes some time to build up. It takes some time to kind of train your hand to be able to do some cross-hatching. But as you keep practicing with it and as you keep doing it, you build up that muscle memory. So you just learn. It becomes automatic. Like for me, I can't draw without doing cross-hatching. It's just what I've been doing my entire life. But there's also other ways that you can do as a beginner, that you can create your values. Let's create another circle. And another way that you can do it is just by scrumbling. And this is a pretty, popular technique with beginners. And it's just rubbing your pencil, leaving your pencil on the paper, and then maybe making it a little bit darker here where our shadow's a little bit darker. So there's also this technique, just a little simple scrumbling technique. And I'm varying my pressure while I'm doing this too. I'm using harder pressure when I'm doing the darker part of the drawing or the object, and I'm using lighter pressure up here. I don't know if you all can hear my baby screaming in the background, but sounds like she's rebelling against something. Anyway, okay, so that was with the HB pencil. Now, I want to make this a little bit darker here so that it really pushes that form that goes around. let's see, I'm gonna pull a, let's grab my 4B. Where did my 4B go? No, well, I guess I'll just use my 2B. So I got my 2B here, and I started, this is as dark as I could get with that HB pencil. And I want this to be a little bit darker so it really pulls the form of this sphere. So I'm using this kind of like the scrumbling technique. And I'm doing it along the bottom here. And I'm going to point a couple things out for you too. You see how that got darker? That's why we use multiple pencils rather than just one pencil. Let me show you something else too. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to fill this in. Okay. So I'm going to get out my kneaded eraser that I have, which I should have been holding in my hand to keep it warm. Now it's gotten a little bit hard. But let's say, oops, you forgot to pull out the highlight here. So you can use your kneaded eraser and kind of push down and dab it like this. And then boom, there's my highlight. It's right back. So I didn't completely lose it. And then you could also, if you really want to stand out even more and make sure you get everything out of there, use my regular eraser. And there you go. All right, so let's get rid of that. All right. So we can talk a little bit more about the value, but I see our time is about 5:42. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing this quickly, doing a sketch of a hummingbird. Now, real quick, I have a printout here of a hummingbird. Now you might think, oh, Nick, you're cheating. You're using a picture to draw a hummingbird. But I don't have a photographic memory, unfortunately, and most professional artists, they work from reference material or real life. So a lot of what I do is I usually have some sort of reference material that I'm looking at when I'm drawing. Could I draw a hummingbird from my mind? Yeah, I probably could because I've drawn a million of them in my life. But just to let you know, I pulled this from the internet. It was in color. Now I printed it out in black and white because that way it's easier for me to see the values. And I also want to just make sure that y'all understand that this is, that it's perfectly fine to use a photograph. So I'm going to put this up here. You all can't see it, but I can see it. I'll be holding it up so I can follow it. Now, the first pencil that I want to use is my 2H pencil. Make sure I get the right one. Okay, so I'm using my 2H pencil. And what you want to do whenever you're drawing something, especially from an image or even from real life, is you want to kind of start drawing it in, breaking it down into sections. So the first thing I'm going to draw, and again, don't worry if it doesn't come out looking like a perfect hummingbird. At this point, we're just getting our feet wet. So these first initial lines that I'm doing are called finding lines, and it's to kind of find the shape. And you don't, and a couple more tips, don't go too small and don't go too big. And another thing, don't go too dark, too fast. You want to build up your values slowly. So as I am kind of looking at this hummingbird, what I'm doing, and I wish you guys could kind of see my eyes, what they're going from the paper to the image. And so I'm looking at the outside part of the image, like I'm looking at this hummingbird's body, and I'm kind of tracing with my eyes, and I never stop my pencil from moving. I'm always looking at my reference image. I keep bouncing my eye up and bouncing my eye down to the pad in order to draw this hummingbird. And here's the beak, kind of comes in like this. And again, looking at the different shapes that are in the hummingbird, like I see this kind of teardrop shape that's here in the hummingbird's head, and then the body is kind of like laid out as an oval. So that's kind of like right in here. And then we have this angle coming down here too. It's kind of like a triangular angle on the back part of the hummingbird for its back tail feathers. So I'm going to come down, create that kind of triangular shape right here. Uh-oh, I think I have a visitor. Oh, I might have somebody who just busted in. Sorry about this, everybody. Let me go. Oh, sorry. My daughter is here and she wants to join and she wants to help. I apologize, but she wants to help me draw. You want to help Daddy draw real quick to draw the hummingbird? Sorry about that. She's grabbing all my pencils. Anyways. All right, say bye-bye. She's grabbing all my pencils. This is the pleasures of live internet drawing classes. Okay, go back. Go see Mama. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so back to my 2H pencil, and I'm going to draw out the wing real quick. And again, that wing is kind of like a triangular shape as well. So you can see it's got this triangular shape. So I'm breaking that down. And this back here, this wing in the back has a triangular shape, but it's kind of curved right here on this side. So that's what I'm going to draw on the back end. And don't worry if wherever your shapes end up, if it doesn't look proportional, if it doesn't look like everything's the right size or in the right place. Again, all we want to do is we really want to worry about our values. I'm going to block in where the eye is. And it's kind of like right in here. So you can kind of see it already starting to take shape. It's already taking its shape as a hummingbird. Now let's dive into some values. I'm going to break out my HB pencil. Let's see, where is my HB pencil? Here it is. Now the HB pencil is perfect for, and I got to sharpen it real quick. The HB pencil is perfect for laying down your preliminary values. So you can see here, I'm going to start in the beak. Let me get the shadings off of there. I'm going to start up here in the beak. I almost forgot one important tip too, because this bottom part of the ball of your hand right here is resting on your paper, and I made a big boo-boo because I'm rushing, and I'm sorry about that. I have a piece of scrap paper, and I like to keep that piece of scrap paper underneath the ball of my hand as I'm drawing so I don't damage this surface. It's a little trick that us artists like to use. So I'm going to start here in this beak, and you can kind of see the beak. I don't know if you all can kind of see, there's these subtle values in here. There's like a light value in here, and then it's dark along the other part. Like it's kind of like a cylinder, right? So you have a highlight here in the middle of it, and then these other values. So it kind of creates that cylindrical look. So that's what I really want to focus on. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start building up my values, and I'm making sure that the line, the value along the outside edge is darker than as I'm going up and in to the beak. So let's make sure we get up in there, and then I'll draw from the top part too on that beak and then bring down, but I'm not going to fill it all the way in. So you want to leave that little bit of highlight in there, because then that creates that three-dimensional look. Now I'm going to make it a little bit darker to really push the values to make that kind of turn around, or to make it look like it's going around. So I'm going to grab my 2B pencil, which I have right here, and I'm just going to go along the bottom part, and then go along the top to help kind of create that volume. So you can see the beak looks like it's rounded. Now let's move into the head, and hopefully I'll be able, probably won't be able to get the entire body for y'all, but I can show you how to start building up these values in the head right here. So working really quickly, let's look back at our reference image. If y'all can see the value here, it's definitely darker along the throat, the bottom part of the head here, and it gets a little bit lighter, and there is some texture in here, but I'm not worried about the texture at this point. I just kind of want to make this look like the head has some shape to it. So I'm going to start building in and layering in my values, and again, my lines that I'm using are following what I think is the shape of the bird's head. So I'm going this way. My lines aren't going this way, because that would flatten it out more than if your lines are kind of flowing with what is called the contour of the shape, or the surface, like how it goes ups and down and has its peaks and valleys, and how it wraps around the shape of the hummingbird's neck right here.
We have a good suggestion from Layla. If you're not super confident at drawing the hummingbird, you can always take a reference, or you could take a sheet of paper and put it over the hummingbird and trace it.
That is an excellent point, and I forgot to mention that. We have a very astute audience today. I also there's nothing wrong with tracing. I will admit, I've done tracing in the past for pure speed, and one good way to do it is like if you have this, like if you print out your reference and you can tape, or you can put your drawing paper on top, tape it together with like some blue painter's tape so it doesn't tear, and then hold it up to a window and put it on a window, and then you can see the light will shine through and you can see the shape, and it makes it easier to trace it. So who was that called that out?
That was from Layla.
Layla, that was excellent. Okay, so going back to, I'm just going to fill in this value here on the head, and then I'm going to get to the eye, because the eye is an important piece, right? So I'm just laying down some light value, even value for the most part, with the HB pencil. I'm not coloring in the eye just yet, but so you can see it's kind of like a flat value that I laid in here initially with the HB. So that gives me some, a color, so to speak, a hue to work with, not something that's just the white part of the paper. That reminds me, another tip. You can't draw white, right? So like what I did here on the beak is I used the white of the paper. So whatever the value is of your paper, that is going to be your white. Oops. So this paper is your lightest value. Some papers aren't pure whites, of course, so they have a value to it. And then in here, one of the things I also look for too is like, where are my darkest values? So like down here in the tail, that's where your darkest value is. So that's going to be where you're going to apply the most pressure. Let me get into this eye real quick so that you all can see that, because we have about 5 minutes. There's a little highlight right there. So I'm going to go back to my HB. Where is that HB? Why are you always hiding from me? Oh, I think my daughter, oh, I got it over here. All right, so for the sake of time, not sharpening. And we know that highlight is somewhere in here. Now I'm going to make the highlight, I marked it out, and I'm going to make it bigger than what's actually here in the reference, because that way it shows up more and I know where it is. And if I want to, I can make it a little bit smaller by going back into it. But here, I'm going to fill in that eye, and I want a little bit darker pressure with the HB pencil than here, because it is darker. But now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to get my 4 or my 2B, and then starting behind right back in here, because hummingbirds, just like us, have irises. So I'm going to start right back here, behind that highlight, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker back in there. And I'm not going all the way out to the edge because I'm taking a little bit of artistic license here too, because again, I don't need to follow this completely. This is just my guide. I really want this to pop a little bit more, this eye. So I'm not going to make it as dark as what's shown here in this reference, but I will go around the outside of this eye a little bit with the 2B to help it kind of pop and stand out just a little bit more. Now, one thing you can do, and since I can only take up a couple more minutes here for the rest of this head, I'm coming back in with my 2B, and one of the things you can do is you can use short strokes and short lines to kind of help mimic the look of these feathers that are happening here. And they're tiny feathers on the throat of that hummingbird. But I'm just using these quick little lines. And again, it's that technique that I was showing you where you put your pencil down and then you push and wisp like that. So I'm kind of doing that, but in shorter strokes. And that will create a texture, so to speak. And I'm spacing them out a little bit more as I get closer to the eye. And I'm keeping a little bit denser and closer together and applying a little bit more pressure down near the throat in here, because then that creates that look of this turning in space. And let's do a little bit more up here. And I want to apologize to you all for not being able to draw an entire hummingbird within this time. I think what we'll do is we might need to set up another class where we can really get into this, and I can talk about more of the techniques, more of the fundamentals of drawing, and maybe introduce you all to some newer materials, and we can start delving into some more advanced techniques and topics.
I think people are really excited. They definitely want another class. We have another tip about tracing. If you use chalk, you can put a thin line of chalk on the image and then put it down on the paper to create an outline.
There are so many techniques, and this, I don't know about you, Stacy, but I don't think this is the beginning. There's a lot of beginners in this class right now. There are some people with some great ideas. Awesome. And yeah, we will look into creating another class. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, sorry I couldn't draw the entire hummingbird this go around. Next time for sure I will. If you want to start drawing anything, feel free to send it to us. Please share it with us. Tag Michaels on your social media, and we'll take a look at it. You could also find me on social media. My Instagram is Nick_Mike at Nick_Mike.
Yes, feel free to tag us on social media at #MakeItWithMichaels. We would love to see your stuff. We'd love to see if you created a hummingbird or just anything. If being crafty, we love to see that. And if you want to take maybe Nick's next class, if he has one, or another class, you can always find our classes on michaels.com/online classes. We have a ton of classes going every day of the week. But I just wanted to thank everyone for coming on. And just, oh, go ahead, Nick.
One last thing, I promised the dad joke. I just remembered right now. At work with my team, I always end our meetings with a dad joke. Actually, one of my designers, he's the specialty dad joke expert. Don't stop me if you've heard this one before, because I'm sure maybe you have. But why did the scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Ta-da!
Yay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you had a good class. And we'll see you next time. Bye.